So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new DCU, as in, well, DC Studios news dump. It turns out we were right in how, well, maybe something was coming our way, and apparently it was, because on Friday, a bunch of outlets, journalists met with James Gunn and Peter Safran to get arguably the biggest DCU, DC Studios slate refresher since that of our Gods and Monsters, Chapter 1, January 2023 announcement video. So guys, there's actually a ton for me to talk about in this video. I don't want to overhype it, but genuinely, this video will be timestamped, and I'm going to lay this out to the best of my ability. This will be, I'm warning you, a long Boba rambly video. So if you go on to enjoy my coverage here, I'd really appreciate a like in it. And hey, maybe you're one of the 47 to 52% of people who aren't subscribed who keep coming back to my videos. Maybe you think you're subscribed, but you might not actually be. Today could be today. You might think, hey, I might give this guy a sub. Actually, maybe I thought I was, so double check. But anyway, interesting first note here to the meat of this video. The space fantasy Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is halfway through production in London. Already halfway. That is pretty nuts. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's because we don't hear anything about it, because obviously with the nature of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, it being this kind of spacefaring adventure, a lot of it's going to have to happen on like a sound stage rather than shooting out where we can actually capture a picture of these actors for ourselves. That's even something James Gunn said recently with regards to Jason Momoa, saying it's probably going to be a while before you see Momoa as Lobo. We're not going to have to go shoot outside, so we don't have to release a picture earlier than we'd want to. Fair enough. I hope they don't wait too long to show us the Supergirl suit, considering it's already halfway through shooting. But hey, if they want to save it for a rainy day, I don't blame them. Lanterns, an HBO series featuring heroes Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, began shooting in Los Angeles last week. Now, Brandon Davis did mention with his coverage that Peter Safran said it's entirely possible that this will be a continuing series beyond these first 8 episodes. I don't think this really gets rid of any theories as to how Hal Jordan could die by the end of the series, because Lanterns could just continue with Aaron Pierre's Jon Stewart and another Lantern, or who knows how many Lanterns. By the way, I found it really intriguing that it could be going on for more than just, well, a limited series of 8 episodes, maybe season 2, much kind of like how Penguin could work out with how they are also exploring a season 2. Now, Clayface, a body horror thriller based on the Batman villain, finally found its director, and that's something I haven't covered yet, and will shoot this summer for a full 2026 release. Of course, this is referring to how just the other day after I published my video, DC's Clayface lands Speak No Evil director James Watkins. I've kind of offered my thoughts already on the directors who were the front runners for it, and James Watkins was my pick anyway. I saw Speak No Evil not so long ago in the grand scheme of things, and I was happy with that, so I was like, hey, out of these directors, James Watkins. Now, Sergeant Rocker, a period war movie to be directed by Luca Guadagnino, is actively looking for its star, and an animated movie titled Dynamic Duo is in pre-production. Now, we have heard after this from Screen Rant here that Peter Safran said, yeah, Daniel Craig was never in. Daniel and Luca have a really close relationship. They were out promoting Queer together, and they spoke about it, but we never met, so he was never in, but we just never comment on casting rumors, so we just left it alone. So apparently, Daniel Craig was never in the runnings for Sergeant Rock, but Jeremy Allen White, I mean, I guess he could be? And then, as for Peacemaker Season 2, this August, Season 2 of the action comedy series The Peacemaker will debut on Max. And that is a little bit earlier than what I thought. I mean, I don't think it'd be too much really beyond September, but August makes me very, very happy. I cannot wait to start reviewing that week to week for you guys again. Hopefully this means we'll get a teaser trailer soon and then an official trailer later on in the summer. At the meeting with journalists Friday, the Warner Brothers Burbank Lot's own dynamic duo gave updates on the slate and explained the ethos and strategy driving their decision making. Okay, so this is where we get into the projects we've already heard about, and have things changed in the past 2 years, which for some projects, apparently it has, and some are still cooking, believe it or not. So we get quite a bit of really interesting insight here. Now, from the duo's perspective, a lot of work has already been done, even ahead of Superman's release. We've unified the brand, we've greenlit 5 theatrical films, we've made 3 live-action series, and are producing 5 animated series, he said. Now, this is where this kind of comes out of nowhere, like so casually announced here. My Adventures with Green Lantern and Starfire are 2 of the animated series. And I believe we even have official logos, or at least placeholder logos right now. Also for DC Superpowers, My Adventures with Green Lantern, and, of course, Starfire. Now, I don't think they say anything about Blue Beetle in this report here, but this is what I mean. If I go over to Variety, this is why you have to bear with me, just in case I do miss something. They're saying different things in different places, or additional things in different places. By the way, the studio is still in active development from Variety here on an animated series about the Blue Beetle that would continue the events from the 2023 feature film, which was one of the last titles made under the old DC regime. Now, Safran said he expects the executive producers who wrote the screenplay to present the project for a possible green light pretty soon. So that does kind of link up to what, you know, we had Sholom Adwania saying as well. Right, okay, let me wrap my head around this. We've got DC Superpowers, Starfire, and My Adventures with Green Lantern. We don't know if they are DCU canon. I've got a feeling, just intuitively to me, that they won't be. But back to the Hollywood Reporter now. They say the goal for the company is to make 2 live-action films and 1 animated movie per year, while also producing 2 live-action and 2 animated series for Max per year. So that is similar to what we heard before, just with a little bit of more clarity there. So we've always known since January 2023 there'd be 2 DCU shows, as in like live action shows a year, and 2 DCU movies. That's true, but with the cool addition of 1 animated movie per year, as well as a couple of animated shows. So like one of them could be Creature Commandos, but you've also got other ones teased, like Gunn talked about ages ago, maybe a Wonder Woman thing. There's the Dead Man tease. We're thinking that could be animated. There's Blue Beetle, of course. It feels like they've got no shortage of plans. Now, continuing on, and while there will be connectivity between movies and shows to give that universe feel, the duo don't want each entry to feel like a chapter to a larger story. I mean, you guys know this is something I've actually gone on about on the channel for a long time now, just in terms of how much I actually do like this approach. So here they give us a refresher in that by saying, we remain steadfast that each of these projects work as a standalone project. So you can see Superman, you can watch Lanterns without having to see both of them. Although, if you can, there will be special things in there for people who have seen both. I think that's great. I really, really do. But don't worry, it is still a connected universe. For example, here later on in the article, they say, and while Gunn and Safran didn't elaborate, this one is incredibly interesting, they did say they had a 6-year plan that would include an Avengers Endgame style culmination. So with that one, it's, believe it or not, as I've kind of been vibing, recently in the grand scheme of things on the channel in the DCU discussion series, we've been talking, well, kind of going back and forth on the idea, is there a big bad of the DCU? Gunn has kind of said that movies and certain projects will be more connected than others. But again, as per what I was just saying, mostly you should be able to watch each project as a standalone, but there will be connections for those who obviously do watch everything. Just to interject here, the exact quote was, are there big bads for connected films? Yes. But is this all about, hey, I'm telling this one story about this big bad? No. So big bads between connected projects, but however, despite having individual vibey projects, some other projects maybe having a bit of a big bad between the cohesion of those release dates, there is also, cutting to the chase here, apparently an Avengers Endgame style culmination. Maybe this could mean what they said ages ago with how Lanterns is really important to their overall story in the DCU. Maybe the Ancient Horror could be the Avengers Endgame style culmination. I don't know. I don't want to waste too much more time on this one. We can definitely speculate about that in the DCU discussion series. Now, as they get more into approach here, one thing that is the undercurrent driving the division is the writing of the scripts. We are writer-driven, declared Gunn. We are not going to greenlight or put anything into production until we are happy with the script. It is hard enough making a good movie with a good script. It's almost impossible to make a movie with a script that you're writing on the run. This is similar stuff to what we've heard before, obviously, with them saying that we're only going to do this, that, and this when it's kind of ready to go. And when we say that, we really, really mean it. Now, scripts that weren't up to the duo's snuff have displaced other projects on the slate, and scripts that hadn't even been dreamt of have risen to the top of the production pile, with like Sergeant Rock and Clayface being prime examples. So let's get into this. Very, very interesting stuff. We had no plans on making a Clayface movie, noted Gunn. Even after scribe Mike Flanagan pitched what they felt was a great idea, there was still a wait-and-see attitude. He turned in a script, and it's one of the best scripts that we've ever read. I do wonder, by the way, if that Deadline article ages ago that even got us that response from Mike Flanagan was maybe when he pitched it, but it hadn't have been picked up at that point. It was just pitched. It really feels like those events match up, and you guys, for those who know, you know. Safran then said, we've laid out internally a plan, but we're happy to pivot as we discover things in the making of Superman or Supergirl or scripts being written. There's a flexibility built into it, even though we know where the larger story is headed. You see what I mean? All while there is a focus on individual stories, some will feel a bit more isolated than others, even though they're still in this main universe. There is still a larger story. There is 100% a cohesive, larger story in the DCU that they're pushing forward. But having said that, it's not going to be as formulaic as like literally Thanos turning around on the chair every post-credit scene after every movie. Like, you're going to get that much of like a clue as to what the bigger, largest. I think they're just going to cook when they want to cook, and other than that, they just want to make good story movies. But when the time comes, the time will come. But before I get too ahead of myself, they continue to say here the execs acknowledged that some projects on the initial DC slate they unveiled in January 2023 have met challenges that could it be Devil Brainiac himself? I don't know if there's a typo in a Hollywood Reporter article. Anyway, we've taken a couple of cracks at it, but still haven't been able to land, Safran says about Waller. Waller has been a bumpy road. Now, they don't say that Waller isn't happening. I don't know if that's just PR talk for it isn't happening, or like, I mean, because they could have just said we're not going to do Waller, but maybe they wouldn't want to label it like, hey, we announced these and now we're not doing it anymore, to not get that criticism of, well, then why announce things that might not work out? You could argue that they're going to keep taking cracks at it to see if it works, because I've said before that Waller does have promise. I know not everyone sees it, but it's just the same vein of, you know, back when people didn't think Peacemaker, the concept of a show for Peacemaker had any promise. So I think that it does. And there was even rumors about it in the past week. So I don't know. I guess, you know, nothing's been able to land on that right now, so Waller is a whiles off, and maybe it isn't filming this year. A series on time-traveling hero Booster Gold was waiting for a showrunner to make time for it, but maybe he fell out of love, maybe he got busy, he says, but we had to pivot. So I don't know if actually maybe I misinterpreted that, and they are moving on with it, but without the original showrunner. Again, a series on time-traveling hero Booster Gold was waiting for that showrunner, but they've had to pivot. Maybe he fell out of love with it, so like they're going on with that. I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see with that. The Authority, a superhero group created in the late 1990s, had a script that has had a harder time coming along, notes Gunn. It hasn't been much a priority. Looking at Variety's article again, they do say this about The Authority, that it's a very, very big movie, and if you're going to do The Authority properly, Safran said, and some story elements perhaps that are in Superman and some of the other films that we fast-tracked step a little bit on The Authority. And then Gunn added that the script has also had a much harder time coming along, and so the film hasn't been as much of a priority because it has been subsumed by everything from The Brave and the Bold to Paradise. So I don't know, there's definitely some projects like this that we're hearing about, which I feel like I could see it going either way as to if they come to fruition, which I think would be a shame, because the Authority characters are very interesting comic book characters that I think would be awesome to see in a DCU, and do fit an organic kind of continuance of the story in the DCU, and just in terms of what we've heard about Superman, the parameters of the superhero world, and then you have these anti-hero types come out, like the Authority, and how that could, introduce some interesting story. We're going to have to wait and see, though. Additionally, James Mangold's take on horror hero Swamp Thing also seems to have cooled. We talk about it occasionally, Gunn said. I think that's more just, something we've known for a long time. Mangold had, and he said since day zero that, I don't know, I've got the Star Wars thing to do and I've got Swamp Thing to do. It's like whatever comes to that first. Now, as for Swamp Thing as well, we had Brandon Davis say that what he heard in a room is that Swamp Thing is not an integral part to the story that they're telling, which makes sense. As I said, it's like its own, it is in the connected universe with Krypto the Superdog and Corin Sweat Superman, but, it's not integral, and so apparently they're happy to wait for James Mangold. They want to do the kind of Frankenstein, collecting the memories of how he came to be project that Swamp Thing is, as, according to what Mangold has roughly described about the way he might approach the story. But again, not integral, so that movie can wait. But hey, Batman time, ladies and gentlemen. And then there's the Batman problem, or several. Now, the way they word things here, I have to admit, it doesn't look too amazing for Andy Muschietti. But bear with me on that, and I would definitely love to know your thoughts. So DC Studios is also concurrently developing The Brave and the Bold, centered on Batman and his son Damian Wayne. But although it was announced in 2023 that Andy Muschietti would direct the feature, and again, you can see the article right here, right? Hey, but he's directing it, and be a producer on it, the filmmaker behind the Flash and It movie seems to be at an arm's length from the project. Now, I'm not here to start conspiracy theories, but it's been a long time theory from a lot of fans being like, hey, after how the Flash performed, and they may have made that announcement to make Andy Muschietti the director too soon, are they really going to slowly but surely phase him out? Despite even what Andy Muschietti has said, that what he's heard from the studio recently is that, yeah, Brave and the Bold is going to take longer because of the Batman Part 2. Those comments, if you know what I mean. But the way they word this here, okay, first of all, you've got the filmmaker behind the Flash and It movie seems to be at arm's length from the project. We're developing the Brave and the Bold script right now, and he'll be the first one to see it, Safran said, referring to Muschietti while also strongly implying the filmmaker is not involved in the project's development. Okay, so I get that the director might not obviously write a movie, but why would the Hollywood Reporter say, while also strongly implying the filmmaker, the director of The Brave and the Bold, is not involved in the project's development? Interesting, okay. Gunn went so far as to say, this is where things get pretty interesting. Gunn went as so far as to say that he was now the driving force of the title. Everybody knows I love Batman and it's important to me, so I'm working very closely with the writer on Brave and the Bold, he said. The writer's name was not revealed. What we have here from Screen Rant, if we look at their take, because they were also in the room, they continue to say here that Peter Safran has confirmed that the script will be shown to Andy Muschietti upon completion, which will lead to the final decision being made on who directs the project. That is quite a vast different take. I wish people were using quotations with whatever was implied, because you have the Hollywood Reporter saying, okay, something was implied. And here you have Screen Rant saying, okay, once they've written it, they're going to show it to Andy. But despite showing that to Andy Muschietti, we're going to figure out then who directs it, even though we've already announced Andy Muschietti as the director for The Brave and the Bold. Now, this kind of smells like to me, and this may sound crazy, that James Gunn's script that he could be working on right now could be Batman. Even went as far to say that he's now the driving force behind the title. Everyone knows I love Batman. It's important to me. It is his favorite hero, as he said before. He's working very closely with the writer. That would be a bit of a white lie. And the reason why, Screen Rant, I don't know what they heard for them to say, quite literally, that after they finish the script, they're going to show Andy Muschietti, which will lead to the final decision being made on who directs this project. Who knows what they heard for them to say that, but maybe it's because James Gunn, just like what he said once upon a time with Superman, or something similar at least, that he doesn't quite yet know if he's going to direct it. Do you remember those public comments? Now, with regards to Batman, the Brave and the Bold, what if he's thinking, hey, I could direct Batman, the Brave and the Bold? Or like maybe, again, as things change along the way, what if it's no longer a story about Batman and his son, Damian Wayne, but they're going to do like a world's finest thing, and that's how Batman shows up first? Or they're still going to do The Brave and the Bold with Damian Wayne, but they're going to do... I don't know. You see what I mean? This is where my conspiracy brain is kind of ticking a little bit, because I don't think anyone can deny that if you like scoop up what the major trades have said about what James Gunn and Peter Safran had to say about Batman the Brave and the Bold, it definitely felt like, yeah, words being used at arm's length with Andy Muschietti, strongly implying that the filmmaker is not involved in the project's development. James Gunn saying he's the driving force behind the title. Why would the director not be involved in the development? And then lastly, again, his Screen Rant, which will lead to the final decision being made on who directs the project. Why would there be a final decision being made on who directs the project if you've already announced a director? Unless, basically, Andy Muschietti isn't directing The Brave and the Bold, and this is a bunch of kind of PR smoke. Like, they're letting you see the light between the smoke cloud, but not clearly enough for them to say, yeah, he's not directing. But to politely yet shadily still at the same time be like, okay, maybe he's not directing it, or is he? But no, maybe he isn't, and this is the way we're presenting it now. He's not directing, or maybe he... Oh, no, maybe. That's how it kind of feels in one way, but at the same time, they could also just mean, hey, we'll show him the script once it's done, and if he likes it, he can direct it, and if he doesn't like it, I guess we'll have to go somewhere else, which is fair enough. If a director doesn't like what movie he could be directing, story and script-wise, they can always pass on it, and, you know, the studio could go with someone else. But I know most people will be believing that this is, you know, maybe not what they're interested in anymore when it comes to Andy Muschietti, and it could end up being something else or somebody else that gets announced to be in control of whatever the first DCU Batman movie is going to be. As for Robert Pattinson's Batman, Gunn poured... This is music to my ears. Let me just take this in. Oh, this was good. Gunn poured cold water that Pattinson would star as Batman in Brave and the Bold, and bristled at the word sharing the actor with Reeves. Like, because, you know, there's the theory of, oh, well, he could be Matt Reeves as Batman, but he could also play himself, well, Batman in the DCU, just as a multiversal version. And Gunn was like bristled at the idea of sharing the actor with Matt Reeves. He said there were no serious conversations about the actor continuing his role into the broader DCU rather than staying in the separate universe of Reeves' world. So that tells me, as per what Gunn has said, that they have had a conversation, but no serious conversation. And that would have obviously have been at their meeting where they were doing a bit of air traffic control. And as Gunn said to Josh Horowitz a couple of months back or so, you know, you have to contemplate everything. Don't blame the dude. I would have contemplated it as well, even if I kind of knew it wasn't ever going to happen. Let's just talk about it. That's the extent of where it's ever gone, as far as we're aware. Variety, once again, saying the same thing here. Gunn said it was very unlikely that the Batman star, Robert Pattinson, would reprise the role for the Brave and the Bold, but, and this is what made me very intrigued, but he did not foreclose the possibility that the DCU version of the character could show up before his titular film. I wouldn't rule anything out, Gunn said. He could show up in something else, but the actor doesn't exist yet. So what they're talking about there is, well, it doesn't mean you have to... And I love this, because this is what we've been talking about recently. It doesn't mean you have to wait until The Brave and the Bold to see Batman. I wouldn't rule anything out, Gunn says. Like, it doesn't mean I'm telling you that you're going to see DCU Batman in a project before then, like Peacemaker Season 2, or whatever else. Most importantly, Clayface, because that's what I'm about to get to. But hey, he could. So obviously, jumping to it, we've been talking about, look, Clayface should still absolutely be a Clayface movie. This horror, body horror kind of terrifying thing that they're making. Great, right? But it wouldn't be out of this world to imagine that you could have Batman take Basil Karlo or whatever to Arkham at the end of the film, or some kind of Creature Commandos-esque, even silhouette-y kind of thing about just some kind of, like, even at the end of Clayface One Bad Day, like you're seeing on screen right now, he pops in there, and it is the canonical DC Batman. And if anything, it could make fans salivate to see that Batman eventually properly, like, debut in his own movie. So hearing Gunn say, I wouldn't rule anything out with regards to not foreclosing the possibility that the DC Batman could show up in a different film other than his own titular The Brave and the Bold movie. He could show up in something else, but the actor doesn't exist yet. Whew. I hope it's Clayface. Now, as for the DCU Titans, this is where Variety say this. Later, a reporter asked about the status of a screenplay about Teen Titans. Thank you. Thank you, because I was thinking over the weekend, if something like this is happening, please ask the questions like this. If I was in that room, I'd be like, hey, the Hollywood Reporter wrote a report about Teen Titans being written by Ana Nogueira. You know, it's quite a big trade. Nothing was ever said about it. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Any comment? Thank you for asking this. And this is when we have Peter Safran saying, oh, you know, that script's not ready yet. I mean, I think we said that Ana Nogueira is writing it. James Gunn then says, we haven't said that. God damn it, Peter. And this is when Peter then says, no, I think it was out there, Safran said. I think it was out there. Yeah, Safran, the Hollywood Reporter put it out there, but you never announced it. Gunn didn't reply to it. So what you think was out there, yes, it was, but you didn't put it out there officially. So Gunn at this point was probably like really face-palming inside his head. And he said, it's out there, Gunn said, the implication being that they had never officially confirmed it until now. It was something that Anna was really impassioned about, and she turned over an amazing script for us, he continued. She's fiddling with that now, but it's definitely not a finished script. So, it's really nice to know that the Teen Titans movie, or whatever the heck it is, being written by Ana Nogueira, live-action DCU, is real. It's real. I still want more answers. I mean, I'll take it for now, but really why I'm a bit more desperate is because we heard this kind of from the Hollywood Reporter ages ago, so really this is just a rehash of it, but it's alive, right? What I want to know is, who's the leader of the Titans? Is this like a prequel Titans where it was Dick Grayson in Robin mode? Or are they going to have it post the Brave and the Bold movie where you have Damian Wayne leading the Titans? But I personally want Dick Grayson leading the Titans. I don't know. But I'm very passionate about Titans, the potential roster they could have, how it all fits in. And then, again, I whoever this reporter was, I love them. The reporter followed up by asking about a prospective Deathstroke and Bane script written by Matthew Orton. Here they say, you say that, like we've said, that there's a Deathstroke/Bane script. Safran replied, with a smile. He confirmed that Orton is working on a script for DC Studios, which Gunn said is something kind of like a Deathstroke Bane story. So that basically confirms this, what you're seeing on screen right now. Now, what I think Gunn means is that Orton is working on a script, something kind of like a Bane Deathstroke story. I think that original report kind of got it wrong in the ways that everyone was speculating. It's not going to be a, dual lead Deathstroke Bane movie, like a buddy cop kind of like whatever the heck that's going to be. It could be two characters. To be fair to the original report, they did also say this as well. They could be just two characters of a larger ensemble cast, and everyone's minds then went to Secret Six. It's just that Bane and Deathstroke would be like the two standout characters of the Secret Six group, I guess. Like those two actors, those two characters in the movie would have the most screen time, maybe. That kind of vibe. So, yeah, turns out to be true. This Bane Deathstroke, something kind of like a Bane Deathstroke story, is real. Now, as for Paradise Lost, as opposed to like Waller that's had a bumpy road and whatever the heck's going on with Booster Gold, Paradise Lost is still in development. That's where we're at with it. On the bottom line, they haven't said that we've had a hard time hitting the script or anything like that. I guess they're just, moving along fairly swimmingly with their Paradise Lost Wonder Woman prequel series. Now, as for Dynamic Duo, we've got another tidbit here from Brandon Davis, and thank you, Brandon Davis, because I'm glad we've got some confirmation on this, at least for now, and how I've said since day dot of when this got announced that I don't see it being in the DCU. Brandon Davis says here that it's not set in the DCU, and he did say, though, that there's a chance that they end up working that in, but right now, the story doesn't really fit with what they're doing with, for the DC Universe, so this is an animated crowd pleaser, as Peter Safran described it. That's kind of how I've described it as well, like the motion, like stop motion puppetry kind of thing that they were doing, this amazing artwork that they're going to bring to fruition through spending so long making this, dynamic duo movie about these two Robins seems more of like a family-friendly, as Peter Safran said, animated crowd pleaser that they want to release in theaters and happy days, right? But it never really screamed, yes, this, very different visual medium, which there's nothing wrong with. We've got Creature Commandos, but this, wild dynamic duo movie's got to be an actual prequel to the Jason Todd and Dick Grayson that are DCU Batman trained, that you will see one day, but like, hey, I never got those vibes. So they did say that there's a chance they could end up working it in, but like, if anything, that's kind of random to say. It's like, how much do you not know about your DCU Batman plans and the Bat family that's built up around the DCU Batman to say something like, these two Robins in dynamic duo, there is a chance that they could end up being worked in. Well, it's like, well, no, they're definitely not going to be worked in one day, or they can. Like, surely there's not that much of an overlap between the story. I don't know. But that's just me rambling about that. But for now, I'm just going to take it that this isn't intended to be a DCU canonical prequel project to when, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd were younger. But The Hollywood Reporter continued to say here that right now, however, the focus is back on Superman. Gunn is returning to Atlanta this week to continue the post-production process on the movie, and while there aren't any major plans for DC Studios to be at San Diego Comic-Con, the division plans on making a splash at CinemaCon, the annual gathering of theater owners at the top of April. So that just makes sense. We all know that DC were going to be at CinemaCon, and we all basically expect the official trailer for Superman to release on April 1st. I believe that's when the panel is. So get ready for that. Nothing at San Diego Comic-Con. It's still, again, in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense in a way in terms of how the projects that they could have teased, are kind of out with regards to Creature Commandos and Superman at that time. Sure, you would have like Supergirl and Lanterns, but do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like next year you're going to have a whole bunch to work with, like 2026, but you never know. They might have a tidbit or two, but I wouldn't count on it so much, especially if they're saying there aren't any major plans. But there could be like a little something, especially with Peacemaker on the way, maybe Lanterns, Nuggets, Supergirl Nuggets, all good things like that. Hopefully. Now, after Gunn gushes over Superman a little bit, he then says, and this is quite interesting with regards to the overall studio and what they feel about the DCU, and they will leave no stone unturned in order to get word out on their first movie, adding that the full weight of Warner Brothers Discovery is behind Superman. David Zaslav loves what we're doing, loves the movie, and has really rallied the entire company behind Superman for this summer, Safran explained. You've seen what can happen when Warner Brothers Discovery gets together behind a Barbie, or a Beetlejuice, or a Wonka, or Kong, and that's how it's being treated right now for Superman. Everything that David Zaslav has promised us 2 years ago when we got the job, it's all been a reality. Hey, until it isn't. I mean, I'm joking, but obviously, nice to hear that Warner Brothers are like, I don't think they have any other option other than, getting their banners up on their horse and then charging in, and everyone's like, charge, let's go, boys, Superman, this has to do good. And, it makes sense. I think anyone with two brain cells to put together at Warner Brothers knows that everyone needs to get behind this movie. The marketing needs to be really good. Every little bit about it, once the marketing really gets rolling, just, it needs to do good. This is the establishment of a whole new cinematic universe of potential. You can't take this lightly. And it's nice to know that so far everyone's on the right page. Let's hope that it stays that way. But for now, despite the length of this video, that is everything I'm going to ramble about. Honestly, if I've missed something out, which I probably have, I will be, again, following up on it in another video. I just wanted to get something out there as this news broke. I apologize about how late this is uploaded. It just takes me ages to edit videos, especially ones where I ramble. Probably much longer than the video length that you're seeing right now. But if you've made it to this part of the video, obviously let me know your thoughts on all of my thoughts on these stories, just your general thoughts, what you liked hearing, what you may have not actually liked hearing so much. And yeah, if you got to this part of the video, would greatly appreciate your support through just hitting that like button and considering subscribing to the channel for more videos and updates just like this. But until next time, guys, really appreciate your support. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see everyone in the next video. Goodbye.